I recently obtained this Mac Pro, including the original Cinema HD display, and I didn't have to pay a single bar of Latinum. It was listed as being a Power Mac G5 with Xeon CPUs. Well, that's impossible. After I got it running, I found it to be a Mac Pro 1,1, one of the early Intel Macs. It came without the hard drives though. Well, how hard can it be to put a drive in that thing and get it running again? Let's find out. To be honest, these things aren't worth all that much. They're not old enough to be considered vintage, but too old to run a recent version of macOS. But since these are Intel machines, we should be able to run about any other OS on it, right? When I first powered it on, the fan started spinning at full speed, and that was it. Nothing on screen, no chime, nothing. Right, let's clean it up a little first. I took it outside and removed the memory risers and the video card and removed quite a bit of dust. Look at these clunky boys! I plugged in a 320GB hard drive as well. Let's see if it spins up. Oh yeah! There even was an installation disk in the drive, but it didn't want to boot from it. Looking at the back of the disk, I'm not at all surprised. So I went to archive.org and downloaded an installation ISO of macOS Snow Leopard, a version that came out in 2009 and apparently is one of the latest versions of macOS that can be installed on this machine. I don't intend to run with such an old operating system, but I want to see if it works correctly before I try anything else. I wrote it to a flash drive, plugged it in, and there it goes. After the installation finished, I could see some details of the machine, like the fact that it is indeed a Mac Pro 1,1, how much memory is installed, and the exact type of video card. Alright, now we've confirmed it works. What will we do with it? First I figured I'd try something special. DOS. My unofficial copy of MS-DOS 7.10 didn't work though. FreeDOS? FreeDOS installed fine. It sees only 2 GB of memory, but that's actually more than I expected from DOS. Can we play a game? Well, it does seem to work, but as soon as I start a game, the keyboard stops responding. The mouse doesn't work either. The games seem to run fine, but there's no way to control them. And no way to exit them, so I have to turn the machine off to get out of it. Alright, I'm not even going to try and fix this. Who actually wants to run DOS on a Mac, right? Next up, I tried to install Windows Vista, because I still have an installation disk and an actual product key. This installs fine. Everything seems to work fine. Only 2 GB of RAM again, but this is a 32-bit version of Vista. We can probably enable PIA mode to access the rest of the 5 GB of memory, but, you know, this version of Windows is about as outdated as the latest version of macOS this thing can run, so I don't really care. I tried Windows 11, but I didn't have much luck with it. Apparently there are options if you really want it. Check this video by Yancy if you'd like to give that a try. I'm not much of a Windows guy, so I'll move on to Linux. This part cost me more headaches than I thought it would. I mean, it's a 64-bit system with enough memory to run any recent distro, right? I first tried my distro of choice, OpenMandriva. It didn't boot. Tried a few others, but none worked. 32-bit Debian worked, but the X server seems to crash after I log in. Let's find a way to run an actual 64-bit distro. It seems that even though this is a 64-bit system, it's unable to boot anything with a 64-bit UEFI bootloader. Most 64-bit Linux distributions boot either legacy or 64-bit UEFI. But since this is a UEFI system, it skips the legacy boot option and fails miserably. So I created a stick with Ventoy. With Ventoy, you can create a bootable USB stick that will boot about anything you copy onto the stick. Just copy an ISO file onto it and it shows up in the boot menu. This way, I could actually get 64-bit Linux ISOs to boot. OpenMandriva booted but kept restarting. Linux Mint booted, but the screen went black. To get a live system not blacking out on me, I needed to add the boot option No Mode Set. I added No Splash here as well, but I don't think that actually did anything. After I did that, I got Mint running and I could start the installation. Yes! The installation went fine. The machine rebooted and... Damn it! According to this great page by Matt Gadiant, I hope I pronounced your name the right way, there is a strong possibility that your distro installer formatted the hard drive via GPT/EFI instead of MBR/BIOS. I booted into gparted live and yep, GPT. So I created a new MBR partition table and tried again, obviously overlooking the EFI part of the above. Booted into Mint again, started the installation and made sure to use the existing partitions. Installed, rebooted, and you guessed it. By this time I figured I'd give Matt's idea a try and modify the latest Mint ISO to remove the UEFI boot option. Burned it to a DVD disk, labeled it, tried to boot, nope. Booted from stick again. After reading the aforementioned again, I now created an MBR layout without a UEFI partition. The installer took notice. So after installation, I tried to fix the grub bootloader myself. Rebooted. Fuck. Okay. Even though Mint boots fine as a live system, I'm not prepared to deal with this any longer. I figured, what the heck, let's give Arch Linux a try. I never tried it before, by the way. After booting from Ventoy, I noticed this. Wait, what? IA32 UEFI? Without even trying to boot like this, I figured I'd write Arch directly to a stick instead of booting it through Ventoy. Guess what? It boots! Well, kinda. Even with no mode set enabled, I couldn't get it to show anything on screen. But that bootloader made me think it just might work. If I could only get it installed. So, I removed the hard drive from the Mac Pro, plugged it into my Linux PC and booted Arch from USB. I installed the system to a hard drive using Arch install. I know some people are going to hate this, but I'm done torturing myself. After the installation completed, instead of rebooting, I halted the system, removed the hard drive and slid it back into the Mac Pro. Lo and behold, it works! But after logging in, the screen went black again. This time though, I was sure the system was still responding. Pushing the power button shortly made the system shut down cleanly. So the next boot, I added a no mode set option again. Woohoo! An actual desktop! The screen resolution was off though. Turns out that the no mode set option actively disables the loading of the Radeon driver, so the system reverted to a generic driver that apparently does not do widescreen resolutions. If it would have done that, I might not even have noticed before running into performance issues. After searching a while for a solution, I decided to see if I could get Wayland out of the way. Well, That was easy. Okay, it seems that the Radeon driver for this video card doesn't play well with Wayland. I'm fine with this. This I'd call GED. I installed some software to see what it can do. Browsing the internet and watching some videos? Check. Writing documents? Check. I couldn't get any Windows games to run using Wine. Neither did anything run through Steam. Could be a me problem, but it could very well have everything to do with the older GPU and the outdated driver. Some Linux games ran fine though. Here's SuperTux at 1080p resolution. A bit more challenging, SuperTux card. Your graphics driver appears to be very old. No shit. But here we go, racing 1080p on 18-year-old hardware. I can say I'm disappointed. Even though we're running off a hard drive, the system feels pretty snappy overall. I guess that's all I have for you today. If you're in need of a decent computer and you don't want to spend a lot of money, you could consider an old Mac. I hope you liked this video. Until next time.